So let's bring this meeting to order. Would you join with me in the pledge allegiance? Pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. So our treasurer, Robin, is our Kathy tonight. So she'll
Thank
do
you,
roll call
Robin.
for us.
John Londo,
Here.
Stephen Harper,
Present.
Beth Williams, Tom Hastings, Rustin Weaver,
Here.
Nikki Holtz, Ken Russell.
So I got calls, did you get a call from?
Tom, when I delivered the packet to Tom on Friday, he said he has, that he, because of the holiday yesterday, his board meeting is tonight, he won't be able to make it.
So, and we heard from Nikki and Ken.
I would move that we excuse the three absent councilmen.
Moved and seconded to excuse the three absent councilmen. Questions? All in favor with aye?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. So approval of the meeting agenda. The one thing I would like, I'd ask that we add, and that is under officer reports, Greg Dorn will give us an overview of the Bullfrog Flats development unit process.
Move that we approve the meeting agenda with that addition as presented here.
Okay. All those in favor with aye?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Consent agenda is approved. So, let's see, but you know what? That's a meeting agenda, that is. So now, announcements, let's see, appointments, awards, recognition. There's something going on here.
There is.
So, I was gonna move right on.
Yeah, I know.
Get out of the I'm getting this over with.
Gotta get money.
All right, my name is Mark Kirkpatrick. I'm at 404 East 2nd Street. I'm current vice president for the Cle Elum Downtown Association. And as many of you know, the city of Cle Elum applied for a beautification and facade grant through our program that we have at CEDA to help businesses downtown to look at doing improvements to their building that just, makes it overall more attractive. And the city did a wonderful job on their building with all the work that they've done, and this is kind of our official presentation of the check for $15,000, and we appreciate the city's investment in what they did. So I'd like to present this. This is the actual check you can cash. I'll give that to Robin, put it in the safe hands.
Yeah, Jay, yeah. I want to cash that one.
So I'd love a photo op. Oh, and
Yeah,
I also
Jay.
want to present this as well. This is something you can put maybe at the front desk.
Wow.
Come on, Jay. Ready?
Oh, that's right, I'll come down there.
There you go.
Oh, for the photo one.
We'll get on the same level, okay? Otherwise, I have 2 legs, I can walk. All right, I'll hold up one end of it,
Okay.
and then we, oh yeah, who's taking pictures? Oh, that's right.
Behind you.
Okay.
It's good?
Yeah.
All right.
Thanks. All right,
Yes.
look at this.
That's nice.
Thank you very much.
Put up here. That's nice. All right, well, thank you.
We don't get to keep that check?
It's dry erase.
Well, thank you. It
Would bounce anyways.
has disappearing ink on it, they'll change the name.
Well, that's efficient.
Okay, well, we got to do something fun for a change. Okay, that's it for announcement appointments. The consent agenda.
I move that we approve the consent agenda.
second again.
Okay, there you go. You got a job for you tonight. Just keep on going, okay? Moved and seconded to approve the consent agenda. All those in favor with aye?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. So we're down to officer reports, and we'll hear from our city administrator, Rob Lee.
Okay, thank you. Honorable Mayor, City Council, quick to do some things together here. So Wednesday, we applied for the .09 sales tax grant through the county, and that's for our First Street stormwater improvements, and it was for $450,000. So we applied for that on Friday, so and we'll see how it goes next month. We should know by next month. As you guys know, we had a position open at City Hall, the office assistant. We had a great turnout. We had 22 apply. We just held 6 interviews last week, and we did end up picking a person. We've got it all finalized. Her name is Whitney Prosek. And she'll be starting the position here at City Hall on December 2nd. So we're excited to have that position filled. We had some ongoing projects. The police department roof got completely re-roofed. It's all re-roofed, and so I can't see that thing leaking the way we put that thing together. So hopefully,
Well, if it does, we can be talking about it.
I know. And so that, it looks real good, and they redid some of the siding at the bottom with some metal siding. It really looks, kind of spruces that up a bit. More projects, we're just starting, met with McKinstry, and they're going to be doing the energy upgrades throughout the city. The big one is though at the water treatment plant, where they're putting in, I believe, like 15 of those heating units in the main area, and it's going to be natural gas, so that should be pretty efficient there. As you guys know, I go to KitCom every month. I guess I've kind of got elected to be on to the budget committee, so we've met once and we'll meet, but that, just to let you know that I'm on the budget committee for KitCom now. The building, I like to give a quick permit report on the building permits. This is for the end of October. As of the end of October, we have 62 permits. We had sold 62 permits, which has brought in nearly $107,000. So it's about equal to where we were on this time last year, but it's still going strong out there. I was out there inspecting today, and also for my inspections, there are 51 inspections done in October. That's all I have for you guys. Thank you.
Okay. So now we'll hear from our city planner, Ms. Peck.
Thank you, Honorable Mayor and Council. Following up on one of the things Rob said about the .09 application, I get to present that again. We had to go back for a second round, so we're gonna go do essentially the same presentation again to COG to see about that funding for the stormwater project. Today I went to a workshop that the county, I guess the county organized, but it was with FEMA and the Washington Department of Military, who kind of is FEMA's local agency. That was at the Senior Center today, and it was about how to get funding through FEMA. So there's multiple grants that they have, different types of grants, and they actually use this as, they were going to use us as an example of a successful grant, but the stamp isn't on the paper. So they were like, well, it's not quite final, but we will get the money. And it's about, I want to say it's like $460 for improvements, bank stabilization improvements over by the Hanson Pond. So it's like our one rail stretch of the Yakima River, which trying to go into the side ponds there, into the Hanson Ponds. And so FEMA has given us, or will give us, quite a substantial amount of money to do bank stabilization there, and that has been in the works since, the application has been in the works since about 2015. So we're finally got it going. And then that requires a 12.5% local match, and that can, a lot of different things can qualify for that local match. And so the mayor and I have been meeting with the Kittitas Conservation Trust to try to see if we can get some additional funding for the project management, because we don't really have anybody at the city uniquely qualified to direct large engineered log jams to be installed in the bank, and that's just not our area of specialty. So we're hoping for additional funding for that, and we should know very soon. And then I just wanted to make an announcement that even though there was a previous announcement of a December 10th hearing on the zoning ordinance, that has been canceled, and the hearing that was held on November 5th of the Planning Commission remains open until such time that they're able to fully review the proposal again, and probably make some subsequent changes to the proposed ordinance and map amendments. So we'll be hearing about that after the new year.
Okay, thank you. So now we'll hear from our Public Works Director, Mike.
Honorable Mayor, Council Member, I'm going to keep it short this week. New water meter installs are in full swing, going really well with those. We're pretty much way done with the 3/4 inch meters, which is a lot farther along than we thought we would be at this time. Training has already taken place for the new software to read the meters, and it was kind of nice. We all got to jump in the truck and go out and watch the computer do its thing, and it's pretty amazing how that computer can read all them meters. It just goes beep, 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 and you actually watch the flags fall off on the map. It's pretty interesting.
So you have a map of where they're at?
Yes. So in any of them, for instance, when we put them in the computer, believe it or not, the computer automatically goes and finds that local address. And unfortunately, we do have 2 meters that are registering in California, so I'll have to drive down there once a month.
Well, yeah.
But no, actually,
Someone's gotta do it.
but the nice part is the system actually does come with a GIS or a GPS transmitter as well. So once we get every one of them installed, then we'll physically go around and GPS every single one of the ones that are misreading for whatever reason because of the address. It's nothing anybody's doing. It's just what it automatically links to Google Map, finds the closest address to that, which most of the time isn't in Little Cle Elum. So no big deal. We'll get those fixed up. Just a friendly reminder to the public, cold temperatures are among us. The city has already been a victim to 2 frozen pipes. So believe it or not, I didn't think it was cold enough, fast enough to freeze a 2-inch pipe, but it was. So we were just as caught off guard as everyone else. With that, won't be long and we're going to start seeing Old Man Winter throw some white stuff on us. With that, we're going to be going out this week and actually working with the police department and starting to enforce the parking code, which anybody that wants to look up on that, it's chapter 10.12 in our city code. The big one that we're going to be enforcing is the parallel parking. We try to remove snow as far off the city streets as we can, and there's some residential areas where people are nose-in parking, which is causing the roads to shrink. So we're going to have to enforce that this year to try to get people to parallel park and follow the code so that we can open the streets up as far as we can to make sure that emergency vehicles, there's room for cars to pull over in the case of an emergency and whatnot. So that's it.
Thank you, Nick. Okay, now we'll hear from the police chief, Sir Cle.
Thank you, Mayor, Council. Happy to report the roof has not leaked yet. We've had a little bit of rain. So on the note, the siding is done. It does look good. I think that was a good improvement. Our landscaping portion of it will start this week, so hopefully we won't be walking in mud anymore. And that should be done by the end of the week. As far as fire or police department stuff, I attended a 40-hour class over at the Academy for Management. Officers did help out with the Cle Elum. We got a lot of good reports on that. Jackie was actually able to participate in it. So she handed out candy and dog treats. So that was kind of fun. She had a good time with that. Last time I talked about, we were going through the promotional process. Here's proof. So I brought Sergeant Rich Albo. He is our newly appointed sergeant. The other person that was promoted was Brad Helgeson, and he is our new corporal. And when Brad, next time he works, he gets to come here. And you'll be able to meet him. So we did have a pinning ceremony. Thank you, Mayor, for showing. That was a good function for us to put these guys in place where they need to be, and so they're all set. We did hold oral board testing today for the lateral officer, so we could backfill Chief Ferguson's old position. And we did identify a good candidate. Civil Service will be meeting tomorrow morning to ratify the list, and then hopefully I'll be able to make an offer to that individual tomorrow. And that's all I wrote down, so any questions?
Things have been pretty calm around town these days?
Yeah, it's been pretty good. Yeah, but we're gearing up to help these guys with hopefully not towing, so.
Yeah.
But it is 24 hours now. It's after November 1st. So 24 hours, cars have to be moved, not 72 like in the summer. And that's all basically strictly for snow removal. That's the purpose behind that. So I just want to remind everybody that we would like compliance versus having to tow. So, thank you.
Okay, so our fire chief, Ed Mills.
Honorable Mayor and City Council, as you can see, there's a little excitement with the engine, but we're going to get into that under number 6, so a little bit later here. Month of October was fairly busy. We had 50 incidents. We had 1 fire, which was a mutual aid with District 7. It ended up being a pretty good fire, and we were asked to extinguish it in the wall in behind the stove, and then did some roof binning, and it was quite the operation. I've got a 10-year strategic plan draft complete, and I'm going to be getting that to Rob and the mayor to check out, and then possibly get it to council to review. So, and again, I'm working on, I'll be getting the bylaws that we sent off to our attorney. She corrected a few things. I ran it past. I had an officers meeting last night and ran it past them. And basically there's just a few word changes in there. It didn't change any of the document. So I foresee that in our meeting tomorrow we'll be able to pass that as we've already passed it once, and then get that to council for approval and an ordinance. So still working on the junior firefighter program. So I've had a couple of recruits that are interested in doing that position. So they've been working with the association, and they've been selling a few of the firefighter cups to raise money to try to help support this program and get it implemented. So there's quite a bit to this program, and a lot of details. They've got a lot of good working programs on the west side. So we're kind of trying to go off from that and figure out what we have to do to get it, because there's some insurance things that need to be addressed. So still trying to proceed with that. And then that's about all I have. Any questions?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, so William LaRue from DOA is up next. Our water treatment plant.
Good evening, Honorable Mayor, members of the council. In your packets tonight are the usual graphs, nothing startling in there. Treatment plant, the water plant, we did 27 million in the month of October and 16 million down at the wastewater treatment plant. October is a very busy month for both locations with electrical testing and thermal imaging analysis of all of our equipment before the winter weather comes in on us. Very time consuming for staff to do that type of work, but something that needs to be done. We pulled the motor pump down at the wastewater plant, completed the cleaning and inspections and oil changes on both of those units, rebuilt the grid pump heater on the grid pump, and we are currently starting up the second sequencing batch reactor in anticipation of higher flows and our usual swap over for the next year. October will be the new, first time we'll be submitting under the new DMR NPDES permit for the wastewater plant. There's been a few changes that the state has done on the reporting process, so it's been a little bit of a scramble here at the very last minute because they didn't load any of this stuff up into the reporting system until Friday and didn't even bother to tell anybody. So we're kind of getting back on track with that one. At the water plant, we did the river dredging, the side channel dredging. I want to thank Lucy for all of her work on getting those permits in place. I really do appreciate that. And I want to thank Mike and his staff for working with us on getting the dredging done. And while we were up there, we also pulled the river screens, fish screens, and our staff, the water plant staff, did the cleaning and inspection and repairs on those. And today we set the last one back in place, so we're back to 100% on those. Been working with McKinstry, been a lot of activity from those folks coming in, looking at things, getting ready for this project. We replaced the mid shaft on raw water pump number 1. The river water just, the sand on that water just eats those shafts up something fierce. We got a new hire in the middle of October. You may know who that is, Marshall Stewart, a local fellow. Very glad to have him in, and we're starting the indoctrination and the training process with him at this point. We operated on the well field a couple of times here the last month of October, primarily due to turbidity event on the river from the rains. Also for the side channel dredging that we had worked with Mike's crew. And then also Department of Ecology was doing a transit study on Yakima River, and they requested that we go over to the well field while they ran their indicator dye down through the river. So, been a very busy month. I'd be happy to answer any questions that you folks may have.
Mama's the word.
Thank you.
William's not feeling well, he's gonna leave a little while. Okay, that's it for our officer report. Oh, no, I almost forgot. Greg Dorn,
One and only.
the one and only. Man, I amended the whole thing just for that. Completely forgot about it.
Mayor McGowan and members of the City Council, for the record, my name is Greg Dorn, and I've had the opportunity to work now for several months with the mayor and your staff on several different planning projects. And the mayor asked me to give you a briefing tonight on the status of one project in particular, the project or the area previously known as the Bullfrog Flats Urban Growth Area. And you may have heard more recently references to 47 degrees north or something of that nature, but I want to bring you up to date on what's transpired in that and answer any questions that you might have. Back in 2002, the City Council approved a master site plan and a development agreement for approximately 1,100 acres that is across the street, across Bullfrog Flats Road, or Bullfrog Road, from Suncadia. That 1,100 acres approved a master plan development for that area that included the potential of up to the construction of up to 1,334 houses or dwelling units, and about 75 acres that was dedicated for a business park. So that was approved back in 2002, and that approval was based on an environmental impact statement that was prepared that looked at several alternative development scenarios. And some of you may have been on the council or active in the community and can remember back to 2002, but when it was approved, it was understood that it might take a while for this development to proceed and become reality. And in fact, since 2002, the only development activities that have occurred was a dedication of some land to the school district, as required by the development agreement, and the dedication of some land that is now becoming the horse park. But other than that, no development has occurred since 2002, until earlier this year when Suncadia contacted the city and said that we wanted to let you know that we are interested in now continuing with the development of that site, and we are looking at potentially selling a significant amount of land to a developer who would be a development partner with us. And so we wanted to let you know that that may be happening in the near future. That development partner is a company by the name of Sun Communities. They specialize in developing RV park resorts and manufactured housing communities, and they've developed about 380 of them in the United States and Canada. So they have an option to buy about 825 acres, so a significant portion of that approved master plan. Sun Communities came in and introduced themselves to the city and said, yes, we're looking to be a partner with Suncadia, and we want to let you know that we are looking at the potential of submitting an application to the city to revise the development agreement. And because of our background experience, instead of building 1,300 single-family residences or 1,300 dwelling units, we're exploring the feasibility of potentially changing it so that it would still include some single-family residences, but it would also include an RV park resort. So they said, we wanted to let you know that. We wanted to understand what the application process would be. And as we talked to them and learned more about it, the city responded by saying, based on the information you provided, it would appear that that would constitute a major amendment or a major revision to the approved master plan. And as a result, you're going to have to submit an application that will go through a public review process, including public hearing before the Planning Commission, a recommendation from the Planning Commission and the City Council, and a decision by the City Council. That's to change it. But before you can submit that application, we have to deal with the fact that the environmental impact statement was prepared 17 years ago, and existing conditions have changed over the last 17 years in some instances. In some instances, they haven't. Steep slopes are still steep slopes. Wetlands are still wetlands. The river is still the river. So some things haven't changed, but some things have, particularly as it relates to traffic. And the original design of the project envisioned that most of the cars would be directed out to Bullfrog Road. And so what we've said to them is, since it's 17 years old, you're going to have to update the entire environmental impact statement to bring all existing conditions up to date, and you're going to have to evaluate the impacts associated with your proposed revisions. So you're going to now have to, and it may be in some cases an improvement, there may be lesser impact, and in some cases there may be more, or in some cases it may be different, but you're going to have to analyze all of that, and that information may help you in terms of your design and how you propose to lay things out, but it'll also help the city staff, the Planning Commission, and ultimately City Council in terms of evaluating your proposal to change. So they have an approved master plan, which they could proceed with implementing now, but the action that they've taken, or the notice they provide the city, is we want to proceed with this amended master plan. And so based on that, they're now going to have to update the environmental impact statement, submit an application, and then go through the process that will ultimately lead to a series of decisions that come before the City Council. So that's what we've outlined. Because of the weather considerations that we're already starting to experience, we said to them, if you're going to go down this path, you might want to think about getting moving on some things, because pretty soon the weather is going to be such where you're going to have to wait until spring, and if you're going to have to gather some additional information to assess how things have changed, you better either speed things up or just know that it's going to take longer. So they've been trying to speed things up, but they're kind of racing against the weather right now. They may or may not be successful in that regard, but that's their problem and their issue. But we're anticipating now that if they continue the path they're on, that by maybe June of 2020, 6, 7, 8 months from now, there may be a draft supplemental environmental impact statement that's out, distributed for review and comment by members of the public as well as agencies. So a couple of weeks ago, we had a scoping meeting, a meeting which was an opportunity in part to enable the new developers and communities to introduce themselves to the community, to talk about their planned revisions, but also to get comments that will be helpful to make sure that the updating of the environmental impact statement covers all the things that it needs to cover. And through that meeting, in fact, there was some very good comments that received and has resulted in some changes to the scope of work, particularly as it relates to potential traffic impacts that the proposed development could have on the city of Roslyn. As we are thinking about now RVs coming and staying in a park-like resort, and we've already have thought about, well, we need to analyze the traffic impacts of that. But what people pointed out at the meeting, which was such a good comment, is that people at an RV park, may stay in the RV park, but they also may be tempted to go out to the lakes, to the hiking trails, and take advantage of some of the recreation opportunities in the area. And because of that, we need to think about traffic from the RV park resort out, not just getting there. And so that was a comment that resulted in some changes and revisions to the scope of work. So the team will be analyzing 13, updated analysis of what would happen if 1,300 houses are built. And then they'll also be looking at what if it's closer to maybe 800 houses or dwelling units and 500 RVs. And that triggers a number of other changes, for instance, because if they were all single-family residences, the city would ultimately own the roads, the city would own the water lines and own the sewer lines, and so there's a lot of things in terms of maintenance costs and the like. Under their proposal, because it would be an RV park, the proposal is there will be a master water meter and there'll be a master sewer meter. They're responsible for collecting the money and making a payment, so instead of getting 1,300 checks, the city gets one check. They would own the roads instead of the city owning the roads. So there's a number of changes that ripple throughout the document. Like I said, and some may create new impacts, some may reduce some impacts, but that's why we do the city, to find out what those are, and then at the end of the day, like you say, we'll be able to sit in judgment of the application and make some decisions. A couple other things to highlight: it's a master site plan and a development agreement that was approved. The development agreement had over 120 conditions of approval. And a development agreement is a contract. It's an obligation that has to be met. And that obligation rests now with Suncadia. If they're going to sell the property, which is their prerogative, interestingly enough, the city has to approve that. But if they're going to sell that, a portion, the obligation doesn't go away. The obligations rest with Suncadia unless they're assigned to Sun Communities, but at the end of the day, they have to be met. And one of the things that happens is when an application is submitted, the applicant has to provide documentation to the city demonstrating how all the conditions of approval have been satisfied. And so that will be our opportunity to assess and look. The reason I wanted to bring that up, because there's already been a question raised, and it came up in the community meeting as well, which is there is a development condition which says that 12 acres shall be dedicated to the city for a community recreation center. And then it goes on to specify the kinds of improvements that should be made in there, and then goes on to say, however, the city and the developer can discuss making some changes and revisions to it, but that's with the improvements, not with respect to the 12 acres. That's a contractual obligation. And the property has been dedicated to the school district that was called for in the development agreement. The property was dedicated for the horse park, that was in the development agreement, but the property hasn't been dedicated for the recreation facility. It's still on the map, we can see where it is, but it hasn't been dedicated. So one of the questions is, why hasn't it been dedicated? And so based on that, we've gone back to the developer and said, we've been specifically asked about the status of this and why it hasn't happened and what the plans are for doing that. So I wanted just to flag that, because I know that's a matter of concern in the community. And so we've gone to the developer, and we will report back to you on what the status of that is and how that plays out. There are provisions for if one party thinks the other party isn't honoring the agreement, where we can have dispute resolutions and a whole bunch of things. But let's start with an opportunity for them to comply with the provisions on their own initiative, and then if we need to, we have those other options. But like I say, I wanted to flag that for you because we know that's an important one in the community. Right now, we're not sure when we might receive an application, but a reasonable scenario is that wouldn't see an application in all likelihood until maybe next summer, when that draft environmental impact statement is ready. Reason why is because that's going to assess the proposed modifications, what the impacts are, and it's, developer wouldn't want to get too far ahead of that, because if the design or layout is flawed, they don't want to be spending a lot of time going down a path and need to make changes. The big issue is going to be transportation. How to provide access to and from that site, not only primary access, but also secondary access, emergency vehicle access, and how do we do it within the context that we have right now, where there are times of the day and times of the year and times of the week when traffic is already a problem. And the law says we can't require a developer to solve somebody else's problems, but the law says we can certainly expect and require a developer to solve the impacts that their development creates. And the best way to solve them is to avoid and minimize them. And then after that is to mitigate. So the big question is going to be how best to get access to and from the site. How do we deal with the traffic that's already on Bullfrog Road? How do we already deal with the traffic that's on I-90? How do we deal with the traffic that's up by Douglas Monroe and the grocery store? And how do we accommodate the additional trips? And what's the game plan? So that's going to be the big one to watch. And not that there aren't going to be some other things that are important along the way, but I think it's reasonable to anticipate that that's really going to be the big issue, and that's going to affect layout the most. So that's a kind of a long-winded introduction of kind of where we all are. Environmental impact statement is underway now. And once again, to reiterate, although the developer is responsible for reimbursing the city for the cost of that, the city has the responsibility for issuing the environmental impact statement and the adequacy of the environmental impact statement. So in one way of looking at it, the city is driving the bus. Even though the costs are being reimbursed for it, the city is driving the bus. And so complete the environmental review. There will be an application then potentially to amend the master plan, and then applications for implementing measures, things like subdivisions or short plats that will actually start to do things like create the lots that are sold or create the area that becomes the RV park. So there'll be a number of things that then come through you, and then upon approval would then be implemented by the developer. So 6 months to a year. And so we'll have, I think, several times to talk between now and then. Certainly, if you have any questions, don't hesitate, through the mayor or through Rob and Lucy to let us know. We'll talk more about this in the future. It'll be something that the city attorney will talk about and remind you about. It's not uncommon on larger scale projects for it to be something that is that's very important to the community and a lot of people have an interest in. And one of the things that you know about your job is you're a city council person, not only in city council meetings, but you also are when you're at the grocery store and when you're out watching a soccer game and going to church on Sunday and things like that. So there may be a lot of opportunities for people to share their opinions and thoughts with you, which is great. But once we get applications starting to be submitted, you'll want to encourage folks to not share their concerns directly with you, but do it at things like when the environmental impact statement is out for comment, or when we have a public hearing here. Make sure the comments come through that way so that that doesn't compromise your ability at the end of the day to be able to take action on the application. So the city attorney will talk to you more about that, just as a reminder, but just as a heads up, don't be surprised a lot of people start talking and sharing thoughts and ideas and opinions with you, all of which is great. But at one point you're going to want to say, come to the public hearing and tell us that. Any questions?
Thank you, Greg. You've been extremely thorough.
Great, super. Well, thank you very much. I know you've got a number of other things on the agenda, and you've got something kind of interesting out there, parked out front to take a look at too. So, thank you.
Thank you. Okay, so now we're at citizen comments on non-agenda items. Is there anyone here that wishes to address the council on items that are on the agenda? No, if not, I think we're going to go down to the fire truck presentation. You're going to get on play.
Good evening. Thank you, Mayor, council members. I want to thank Chief Ed Mills for the opportunity to come talk to you guys about the fire truck out there. My name's Ryan Villalobos. My associate Steve John. We're with True North Emergency Equipment. We're based out of Marysville, and we have an office in Hillsboro, Oregon. We represent Spartan Emergency Vehicles. They're the manufacturer of that beautiful piece of apparatus that you see out there. I'll tell you a little bit about True North. True North got started in 1990 under the header of H&W. We were purchased by Varmar Corporation in 2013. Like I said, we have service locations in Hillsboro, Oregon, and Marysville, Washington. Our dealership represents Spartan, Smeel, Ladder Tower, Road Rescue and Wheel Coach ambulances, all leaders in the industry in safety and innovation. Our main objective is to sell a high quality, safe apparatus, providing our customers with the information and knowledge that they need to make an informed decision. So Spartan Emergency Response, the manufacturer of the fire truck, has been manufacturing fire trucks for over 40 years. Is a leader in safety and technology and takes great pride in building high quality, dependable, and easy to maintain and service apparatus. So a couple things that Chief wanted me to talk about is a couple of the reasons why they chose us to bring a truck out and to talk to you guys, kind of why they chose us as a dealership. One, we are the closest dealership to you guys as far as service. We have mobile techs that can come right out here, work on the truck at the department. fix it, transport it to our shop if it needs to be fixed at our shop, if it can't be fixed in the field. Parts are very easily obtainable. Most of the parts on our truck are a non-proprietary part, which means you can go down to Napa, pick them up. Some parts are even available at your local Kenworth dealership. Again, we can transport the truck if it's necessary. I think one of the big things is our warranties. There's a 2-year bumper-to-bumper warranty on the truck. Covers everything for 2 years. We have a 10-year paint and cab body warranty, 10-year structural cab warranty, 5-year 100,000-mile warranty on a Cummins engine. Lifetime lifetime warranties on the frame and cross members, water tank, and the torque mounts. So I have a little kind of presentation here of the truck. Kind of goes over some of the equipment that's on it. Some clearer pictures you can see taken during the day here. So what it is, it's a 2018 Spartan Metro Star. An extended medium 4-door with a 10-inch raised roof. Has a seating capacity for 5. It's a 450 horsepower Cummins engine, Allison 3000 transmission, extreme duty interior, advanced protection system, which has a stability and rollover control, so it'll pull you out of a tipping situation. That's another big reason for the choice of our truck, is that feature, and a full airbag system. Has full side curtain airbags, knee airbags for the driver and front passenger, and steering wheel airbags. So it's an independent front suspension, which makes for a nice smooth ride and easy turning. The front bumper extension. Shorter wheelbase, again for maneuverability. Advanced climate control inside for comfort of the firefighters in the summer. Keeps it nice and cool. Heats up real quick in the winter for when it's cold outside. Lots of lights on the truck for scene. Allows for really good visibility. A little bit of the equipment on it. Has a waterless CSU pump, which can pump 1,500 gallons per minute. Side mount controls, Trident air primer, has a 750 gallon poly water tank, which has a lifetime warranty, 20 gallon foam cell, and a Foam Pro 1600 for mixing foam with the water. Again, it's all aluminum body, has vibra torque mounting system, ROM roll-up doors, which will keep the firefighters safer as they're working around the truck. They don't have to walk around them into traffic. The doors just roll right up on the truck. It comes with a ladder package. And a whale and lighting package. I think next slides kind of just go into some pictures of the truck. Front of the truck with the front brow lights there up top for scene lighting. Up top there, you see the lights there. There's a hard hose bed cover. It'll keep snow, keeps rain, in the event of a fire. If you're, say, have a forest fire with lots of embers or whatever, keep the embers off of the hose. Front hose well cut. There in the bumper, hold 150 feet of hose. Pull up on scene to a fire and just pull it all out and ready to go. It's your pump panel. nice, easy, well laid out, color coded, so you know exactly what you're going to be using. Lots of storage, a lot more storage than they have now. Easy access. Roll out drawers for easy access to tools. In the back there. One thing I will say again about the serviceability of the truck is access to pumps, to the engine, to anything the mechanic's going to need to get to. It's real easy to get to. It's going to cut down on cost for maintenance and keeps it easy for servicing. And there's a few shots of the interior. That's it. Anybody has any questions, or if there's anything else you need me to talk about, Chief Mills?
Is there a loaner available if this requires extensive repair?
We don't typically have a loaner, no.
That is something that's on our kind of our agenda though for the future, is to be able to have at least one loaner truck where if we have a critical situation where your truck's out of service for an extended period of time, that we can give you something to use, but normally it's a pretty quick fix in most cases.
So I was gonna mention one thing. I mean, I know that this is the truck they wanted, and they did get it, but it also was the low bid, okay? We didn't, so everybody knows, we didn't just go out and buy your truck. They had to compete for it, you know, and that's a real important point, you know, ask our treasurer. So, I appreciate that. It's interesting, the hose reel that's in the back is for the foam, or what's that hose reel?
That hose reel is actually going to come out of this truck.
It'll
be used for storage.
Oh, okay.
The traditional hose reel's kind of in our situation, it's more of a danger than a necessity.
Okay.
Guys tend to pull that out on a larger fire, and it's basically for a small trash can or something along that line. So they pull that out and then realize they're way over what they need, and they need a larger hose. So instead of putting anybody in that situation, these guys have wrote up a credit on that hose reel, and we'll use that towards the traction tires and eliminate that hazard. There's no real need for a small hose reel when we can pull pre-connects and go at it with water right away.
Well, you do have the one on the front bumper.
Yep.
So, and then how about automatic chains? Is that an issue? Do you guys do that or not?
That's in there.
That is in there for them to be added to that truck, yes.
Yeah, it's handy.
Yes.
Any other questions? Thanks for the presentation.
Great, absolutely. Thank you, guys. Appreciate it.
So now you just take the truck and go back.
Can we get a copy of the PowerPoint presentation by chance? or-
Yeah, I can absolutely email you.
Yeah, just email
Email you.
me or Chief or something
Sure.
for the record.
Absolutely.
Okay, well, thank you for that. So, back to the regular agenda here. So, here we are now. And this is the unfinished business, and this is the fire pumper truck bid acceptance. Ed, do you want to?
So, yeah, we did go out to bid on this, so we did quite a bit of research. I had several guys, one Aaron Barr, one of my captains that did a lot of research for us, went out and actually dug into this very extensively. We've been working on it for probably, he actually put a couple of years in, about 8 years ago when we were researching getting a platform truck. That went by the side. We're down to a 32-year-old engine, and our newest engine is 22 years old. So it is definitely overdue to get a new engine. It's going to really help with our ratings, Washington State Rating Bureau. So needless to say, we went out, we got 2 bids. True Northern Environmental came in at low bid. They were the ones we were leaning to, just simply because they are closer, they have a mobile truck. The other big factor in this is we need an engine sooner than later. The other bidder wasn't able to supply us an engine until at least 465 days. So we're looking at a year and a few months to get an engine, where these guys are going to get us an engine in 60 days. And basically when it leaves here, it's going to go down to Oregon. It's got a light bar that we're going to have installed. I think the auto chains go on it, and some shelving. They're going to put in radios and some lights that we're going to supply. So in those 60 days, they'll fix that up, and we'll have some guys go down, 2 guys go down and make sure that it's the specifications that we've got, and that's why we went with this. So any other questions? I guess what I'm asking is approval for the council to approve the mayor to sign this agreement.
So, by agreement, are you saying the
Bid acceptance.
Bid acceptance,
Yeah.
So I would move that we authorize the mayor to sign the bid acceptance as presented to the council.
Second.
We'll just second it, to authorize the mayor to sign the bid acceptance. Is there questions on the motion? If not, all in favor with aye.
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 Opposed? Okay, the bid's been accepted. And congratulations to you. And I'll get it signed for you right away.
Okay.
So,
Just have to open it.
you guys, this is not church. You
Thank you very much. We'll be in touch. Thank you.
Thanks, Chief.
Yeah.
You taking the truck back now?
I'm driving west.
Okay, so, businesses requiring public hearings, and this one is the levy revision. So Robin will explain that to us a little bit,
Sure.
and then I'll open the public hearing for the people to comment on it. I'll close that public hearing, and then the council can deliberate. So Robin, go ahead.
So the ordinance isn't changing from what you approved last time. It would be the levy certification. And basically what the county said is you want to go as high as you want. I have the number in front of me. Let me see.
810,000.
What was the original?
It was 7.6, it's called under the regular levy. So they said that number you want to go as high as you can. You want that number to be the max possible you can get, because if you go low on it, then you don't get if the revenues go over. So even though we know some people don't pay their property taxes, and we're going to put a high number in there, we're probably not going to get that number, but if it was a perfect world and we were able to, we would at least be able to get it. And it's not that we would lose the money, it would come in next year, we would receive it next year.
Okay, so with that, I'll open the public hearing for anybody here in the council room that wishes to comment on this ordinance revision. Or not?
There's my old bones.
I'm not.
They can't move very well. Kathy Preston, 906 West 2nd, and Cle Elum. Well, I don't know much about this, and I'm trying to learn. So it's not going to change the ordinance, so you go along with that still?
It's increasing what we had last year.
Oh, it is increasing.
It's increasing it from the 746 to the 8.
If I might explain in common language, where the amount that we've raised, the 1% is normal, but the big number is, say we collect all of the taxes at that 1%. Well, the second number is how much of it the county gives us, or however it's collected comes back to the city. And so what would happen is, say we collected that high amount that everybody, like she said, everybody paid their extra 1% in the taxes.
Extra 1%.
Well, it rises at 1%, which is well below inflation.
Yeah.
Anyways, then if we don't create that cap big enough, then the money gets collected, but we don't see it till next year when we decide to raise the amount that we retain. So it's not, we're not collecting any more taxes.
So, so basically you want to fund it, and they say to go higher, as high as you can, so you get more, what is it, a grant?
Create that limit, raise the limit that we will receive as the city. So when I say collect in the general sense, everybody pays the tax, and your tax goes to the county auditor.
Is that taxes on
That's
homes?
property taxes.
Property, it is
Property
property.
taxes. And then the county auditor gives so much back to the city based on this ordinance. And so if we don't write a high enough number, we don't get any more than is collected.
Gotcha.
But if we collect a certain amount and our number is only, 700 and something thousand, 746,000, and say we collected 760, then the county gets to hold on to that money, for longer.
Okay.
And it doesn't come back to be spent in our city like it should.
And I'm a little ignorant, so I'm wondering, what is this levy situation? What's that for?
That's how the city operates off of.
How the city
That's how we tax property.
Yeah, I knew there was something, but how city operates, I guess. Okay, thank you, that's it. I'm trying to understand this stuff.
Sure, that's okay, yes. Okay, so with that, I'll close the public hearing, and now the council can deliberate over whether or not you want to do this.
I make a motion.
Okay.
Accept ordinance and resolution number 1568.
I would second that
Moved
motion.
moved and seconded to adopt ordinance resolution 1568. Questions on the motion? If not, all in favor with aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, you're gonna abstain? No. Oh, you
Aye.
said aye. Oh, geez. I was like, what was that? Wait a minute. Okay.
All right
good.
now.
Okay, so now we'll go down to B under business requiring a public hearing. And that's the preliminary budget. And I guess what I'll do here at this point, Robin, you can chip in wherever you want, but I'll read a few of the highlights that we have here. And we're, of course, it's a balanced budget. And we're going to be doing some energy efficiency upgrades that we heard about tonight. There'll be salary increases for all the city employees. The judge got more money this year. The police department telephone system, an overall increase of 3%. In addition, the full-time employee for Public Works, water and sewer department. And that's a little different. The planning budget includes a part-time planning tech intern. The library budget is an increase of $1 per hour for the library assistant. The fire department budget overall increase was 8.6%. We're in the process of replacing $115,000 worth of water meters. We heard a little bit about that tonight. Of course, we're gonna be pulling off the downtown First Street revitalization project. The Hanson Ponds Bank project is in the works, you heard about that tonight. We are working on our sewer comprehensive plan. That's where the camera truck comes in. And there's a $50,000 chip seal project and $18,000 for a 3/10 fund. For a 3/10 fund vehicle. Some of that money will go to this vehicle. So, Robin, do you want to add anything else to this budget? Or
Nope, those were the highlights.
Those are the
Any
highlights.
questions?
So what I'll do is I'll open this up to the public, so whoever wants to comment on, this is the preliminary budget. We still have another hearing on this. Yeah, so there'll be more. So anybody who wishes to come up and address the council on this, go right ahead.
Okay. Okay.
By the way, it's just over $14 million budget for this year.
Well, I think the wages part is very good this year. Kind of sticker shock last year, but it looks good this year. I'm all for it. Happy the water meters are working, the chip seal exciting again, and even the waterworks stuff. So at this point, I am very pleased with what you're presenting. Thank you. Oh, did I forget my name again?
You did forget your name, but we remember.
Thank you.
For the record. Robin, you did get her name for the record.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
All right, I shouldn't speak for the clerk. If there isn't any other comments from the public, I'll close the public hearing. And really, there's nothing for any kind of motion or anything at this point.
I would make a comment though. Staff has worked hard on this, department heads have worked hard on this, and 2019 was a big year where a lot of 10-year events happened, like a fire truck, the camera truck, the back truck, and some major improvements. So it meant that 2020 is going to be a tighter year, and that our reserves are brought down quite a bit. And so there's been a lot of, I've had a lot of public input that why isn't this getting done, why isn't this getting done? Well, we need a year to catch up on a lot of things because we did a lot of 10-year events that will save us money, and that revenue and that money savings will be realized. But it's kind of like when you go to save and they say, you saved all this money. You don't save it immediately. You save it in that you don't have to buy it at, if you bought it in quantity, it'll last longer, etc. So, I've heard public comment that, well, this won't get done this year, this won't get done this year. There will be a lot of things that in 2020 may not get done, but there's still the hope of grants that we're actively seeking. There's still the hope of other adjustments that can be made, but we have to pass something before the first of the year so that we can operate as a city. So I appreciate the work that staff has put into this.
Okay, with that, we'll move on to a new business. So, Rob, you're going to take us through resolution 2019-017. This is sales and use tax for affordable housing, support housing.
Exactly. Thank you, Honorable Mayor, City Council. In your packet, there's a 4-page, actually 6-page document that kind of goes through it. But essentially, our attorney actually brought this up to us and wrote the resolution. But it's a sales tax that is actually a credit against the state sales tax. So the state has a 6.5 sales tax. Everything you buy, 6.5% goes to the state. So there's no tax increase for the consumer. It's just taken right off of the 6.5%. However, the cities do need to write this resolution in order to, capitalize on that. Otherwise, I'm not sure what happens, if it stays at the county or if it stays with the state, but it doesn't come to us, is the main thing. So essentially, that's all that this is doing in the
It's
resolution.
kind of like a pre-approved grant.
Yeah.
And so this is all geared towards affordable housing. And if you read through this, it tells you what we could use it for. So when the sales tax comes in, it's going to be earmarked for only those projects, and we'll keep a separate, we'll keep that on a separate line item. Does that make sense? And so really, I would need approval for the mayor to sign this resolution.
Good question, or two or three.
Okay, as long as it's quick.
Have you guys calculated how much money this would be potentially coming in to the city?
This is the first I've heard of it.
I don't know if they, how much does it say on there? Because I don't know how much sales.
So is it coming out of the 6.5?
0.0073%.
So
Yeah,
it's coming out of the 6.5.
Yeah,
That
so
always
it's-
goes to the
It's
state.
0.016, so however much sale.
0.0146%.
Yeah,
Well, there was also something about if we pass a sales tax within the city itself.
right,
we get
that's
more money.
what we're not doing.
Okay,
That's a different one.
right, okay.
But I would like to point out that it says the tax can be used to assist persons
Yeah,
whose income is below, so that. It also needed for affordable housing, it can be used for affordable housing. So there are, it is to be used for certain things. What was that?
Nothing.
yeah, so we're not sure exactly how much it'll generate, but it was something kind of last minute that we needed to take advantage of. And we'll
So
get,
it's a use it or lose it thing.
it's a use it or lose it thing. Yeah.
And also the scope of it includes the supportive housing, which my understanding is that would be like nursing homes, et cetera, which we have, we've had them in the past and they've moved because of lack of availability. And I think that's one thing we have to consider as our society ages. As people may not have the ability to be able to house people in their own homes, we would want to make some type of provision or some type of incentivization of these facilities to be in it's to our benefit to have people that need that support to continue to live with us. We don't want that generation to migrate because they don't have a place to stay.
Okay, so is there a motion or what do you think?
Yeah, I would move that we adopt resolution 2019-017.
Moved and seconded to adopt resolution 2019-017. Questions on the motion? If not, all in favor with aye?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Resolution 2019-017 is passed. Okay, now we'll go down to resolution 2019-018, and it's the transfer of the franchise from Knoll to Wholesale Networks, and it has Rob Ullman's name behind it again.
Again, yes, thank you, Mayor and City Council. So I mentioned this, I don't know, months ago, I guess, that there was a sale, and it has gone through. Knoll was purchased by Wholesale Networks, and I've been working with the attorney to make sure that, that there was, in their original franchise agreement, there was allowance to get it transferred, and so we went through that process. And it's before you here. They've signed it, they've notarized it, everything is good to go, and all we need to do is have the approval from council to have the mayor sign this ordinance and the transfer agreement.
And I've done some looking into Wholesale Networks, and I certainly would approve this. It opens it up to where the smaller fishes are getting absorbed by bigger fishes. And while that's not always the best, it is in Cle Elum's best interest that a bigger fish is providing internet here with more connections and and greater throughput to our area. So it'll increase our quality of service, I believe. It won't immediately, but it will in the future, and it could also drive prices possibly to go down. I guarantee that. But I can tell you, it doesn't appreciably change operations at present, but it has the potential of opening up Cle Elum to faster internet.
So I think the big question here is who is Knoll Communications? And
Oh, no, they've been,
who
yeah.
do they, I mean, what internet do they provide in the area?
Oh, that
Yeah,
would be
we're
good.
well-
Why don't you explain that a little bit?
So we're well known. So the hospital district, the court system, the city of Cle Elum, and all of its department, and most of it, yeah, all of its departments now.
County.
County departments are all provided. They're basically a commercial internet provider. That said, any residents, if they want to pay the initial hookup to the fiber, could also get service. And so they run basically on the same telephone poles down the roads, and they provide fiber services to anybody potentially. And where the city benefits well with that is we get one internet service, but we get connectivity to all our different buildings. And then also we have a big fast backbone, and especially the county, they have a nice secure connection between here and the county rather than having to go through the internet. There's less stops. And so they're a well-known provider. They've provided good internet and I think extremely reliable service to they're also there's another local provider, Simplified Technology, who distributes bandwidth that they buy from Noel, and then they have a wireless system throughout town. So yeah,
We're hooked up to them big time.
yeah.
Motion?
Yeah, I'll make a motion that we adopt resolution number 2019-018.
Okay, a second.
Moved and seconded to adopt resolution 2019-018. And that's a resolution authorizing the mayor to sign the transfer ownership agreement related to Knoll Communications. Questions on the motion? If not, all in favor with aye?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, the resolution is passed. Okay, the next one is, this one we get, this is another one. It's a security event data sharing agreement. Wow.
Yeah, it's kind of an interesting thing that has happened here, I guess. So months ago, that I went down to the county and we were having a conference on some of the stuff that I need to catch up with our network, basically, servers and whatnot. And they told me about this company that was basically formed by a former IT director or whatever for the city of Seattle. And so, and it may not say that all in here if you've read through this or not, but this is just kind of a quick background. And so he went out on his own and to form this security, monitoring system that he deployed throughout the Puget Sound area. And so he's kind of taken this to the next level, I guess, and is offering it to colleges and universities to kind of help train, future security analysts, I guess, security people that would analyze data and for cyber attacks. To do that, they need data. They need real live data. And so what these guys are offering to us, and it's at no cost, is they actually put a piece of hardware in City Hall, and they gather all of our metadata in and out. And then what happens is, under the supervision of this company, students analyze these to look for places of known attacks or known bad sites, basically, right? there was some questions when I was bringing this to a committee member. And that was about, well, students have access to our, our data. Well, the second or the third bullet sort of answers that. It captures and clones the header data. It's not actually the, down here at the bottom, let's see, where is it? The only data that they see is the header data, which is basically information on where the message originated and what IP address it's passed through. You don't actually see the message. You don't see the actual text or picture or video or whatever that you're sending through. And so I feel it's secure. I feel that, and the county recommended it, that this company's only given it to government agencies that have 50 or fewer employees. So the county would do it, but they would cost them. So, so in the last 4 pages is the agreement. Just FYI, the attorney and I, we went through all of this. There had been some changes from the original one. We went back and forth with the company, and all have decided on these 19 points here. And he has signed. The executive director has signed. I think it's Steve Stein. If you could read that, it's supposed to be Steve Stein. And so I'd recommend the council approve the mayor to sign this agreement. Questions?
So I'll voice my concerns on this. As far as costs, the costs are negligible in that we will have to provide a piece of hardware, another computer, not a huge cost. But the concern that I have, and because of the nature of the kind of scrutiny that's going to have to be put on inspecting our headers, is that they will know where they originate, where they end. And there's no per se certification. This is still, we're still growing this. Again, the intent is that, like they've said under project support, currently the Department of Homeland Security and PNW Labs are supporting the project through 2020 with the objective of creating a sustainability model that will address administration and technology costs. Basically right now, in order for them to stay afloat, they are in a way profiting, at the same time giving us a service that they can't guarantee the quality of service or certify the quality of service sufficiently in my mind. I see this as opening us up. Metadata is important. Metadata matters, and for us just to simply capriciously give that up without really any kind of citizen input, I don't feel comfortable with it, and I would recommend that it be tabled until such a time as it can be sufficiently explained to me in very plain English what checks and balances are done inside this. I have high assurances from some very credible sources, the Department of Homeland Security, the IT department in the county, which I definitely respect. At the same time, I want to know the process thoroughly and talk to a person that administers this before I as a council person can say, yep, let's do this. I will say this is a good step in the right direction. Rob's not just fishing out there for just something else. He's looking for a way that we can have a third party verify, besides just the firewalling that we have, besides just the antivirus softwares, etc. He's looking for a third party that can say, what else are we doing to do due diligence that we're keeping the city's security, safe. But it's kind of it's a double-edged sword. That person who's keeping you, it's kind of like when we commission an officer. That officer, then we're putting our trust that they're not going to turn, because that same officer who protects us with a gun, if they're the wrong person, could flip and do damage. It's the same way. This company could be very great, but you get one bad actor that, because protocols are lax or because things aren't good, and you could open us up to some potentially devastating things. And in the atmosphere of ransomware attacks, small municipalities are a big target. And so I would recommend that at this time, we do not approve this agreement.
Do you have any other, like, that fit in there or say anything?
Is there I don't know, a drop dead date for doing this? Do we need to do it now? Is it something that we can look into more?
I'm not sure if there's a drop dead date or not. I mean,
So again, I'll reiterate, this is a step, having this as a service, having our data watched in and out is a good thing, and being able to get it at a cut rate, I believe is also a good thing. But I need to have complete confidence in this specific
Well, I
company.
guess that's kind of what I was getting at. Is there the potential for doing more study on this?
Can we give Steve a couple of weeks opportunity to dig into it deeper?
absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah, so they're suggesting, Rob, that we
Just
table it for now and put it on the agenda for the next meeting, provided there's time.
And I'll try to get somebody.
For additional review.
Or even I can do a FaceTime or,
Okay.
yeah,
So
You want somebody
you'll work
face to
with
face,
Stephen.
somebody that's gonna be
just a human being,
a human,
A real,
person that,
not a metadata.
yeah, person who can explain it to me in English, because if I can't understand it in English,
I figured,
yeah.
gotcha. Okay.
all right, well,
That's it.
that sounds great. Okay, so ordinance 1572, line of credit, and this is for the downtown revitalization and Robin, and then we have some bond counsel? Oh, yeah, here to walk us through this.
Yeah. Does they want to introduce it?
Cynthia Weed with K&L Gates. She's gonna give a little.
Yeah, go ahead. You're on. This is your big moment.
Mr. Mayor, members of the council, it's a pleasure to be here this evening. Again, for the record, my name is Cynthia Weed, and I'm with the firm of K&L Gates. For those of you who've been around for a while, it used to be known as Preston Thorgrimson, Preston Gates and Ellis. And the name changes, but we're getting older, but we're still here. And our firm acts as your bond counsel, which means we're not your regular city attorney. But when you engage in activities that involve borrowing money, the lenders require an opinion from a firm that just specializes in this type of work. And so that's the reason we are separately, just to act as your counsel in connection with ensuring that you comply with all state laws and federal tax laws in connection with the borrowing of money in order to make that loan a valid binding obligation of the city. So as you know, you're embarking on a community improvement project in downtown on First Avenue. And that project this is basically your phase of implementing that project. And it's going to take some time. The overall expectation is it's going to take some time, and hopefully you'll be getting grants to pay for significant portions of these costs. But with grants, they are awarded and then sometimes they take a little bit of time to come in, but you still want to embark upon the undertaking of the project itself. And so your treasurer, Robin, determined that it might be a good idea, just for safety's sake, if you negotiated an agreement with a bank that might be able to provide you with bridge financing pending the receipt of grants and the monies needed and expected, like that check, to pay for costs of the project, like that check you received tonight. And so Robin embarked on a search and checked with various local banks, and the bank that came in with the most favorable proposal was Umpqua Bank. And they're very anxious to make this arrangement available to you, even knowing that you may not draw upon this except very rarely and occasionally, but they value that relationship that they hope to have with the city. And their overall commitment is basically a 3-stage commitment. There's a draw period which is really an initial 5-year period. It can go out to 2024, where you can just draw down on that line of credit as you need the money, and then repay it back, essentially repay it back. When you get to either 2024, September in 2024, or if you get it all done faster, you can convert the loan to then an amortizing long-term loan. So you can stay with them and stay with that Umpqua Bank for a full term that could potentially run out to 2033, or you could choose to refinance it with another financial organization. Now the interest rate, and it's interest on drawn principal, the initial 5-year period, 2.73%. In the second 4-year period, it's 2.91%. And then in the last 5 years, assuming it goes out that long, it will be reset based upon a treasury rate at the time, and then adding 1.98% to it. No, ultimately, you can, again, pay it down from time to time, so you have the ability to do overall refinance. Now, this line of credit, it's an optimistic line. It allows you to draw up to a total of $7 million. Now, that is more than your actual debt capacity right now. Your actual debt capacity is $4.7 million. So at this stage, you really couldn't go over 4.7. But assuming a lot of these new developments go in, your debt capacity may in fact grow over the next 5 years. So this gives you stretch capacity. If your assessed valuation goes up, your legally available amount to borrow can also go up. Now, needless to say, you probably don't want to draw down the whole thing because that would kind of impair your ability to finance a fire truck, for example. So you're basically going to be monitoring what your capital needs are versus what's available to be drawn under this overall line. So right now, the expectation is we'll close this transaction on November 26th. You don't necessarily draw down any money. It's there for you, as I said, to draw down the money over the next 5-year period, or shorter if you decide. It's a general obligation, which means that it's the full faith and credit of the city to repay it, again, subject to those debt limits. But that's basically it. It's a fairly long resolution, and given the length of your agenda, I'm not going to begin to go through all 26 pages of it, but I think I've given you the highlights.
Quick question, what are
Yes.
the fees associated with this loan?
The bank is not charging a fee. The bank has a separate independent attorney that's looking at it. So basically the fees associated with it are the bank's attorney and our fee as bond attorney. And that's it. Again, usually the bank will have a separate fee, but as I said, this was a very
It's not going to
generous
cost us
offer.
anything to have this available.
Correct. And again, we've limited our ability, it's not just the stroke of a pen. Every single transaction comes before council.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
Oh, and you're not going to be spending any money
Yeah.
unless the council approves it.
Yeah,
So
that's what I'm saying.
this is sitting here as a way
Yeah.
to finance approved capital
Yeah.
expenditures. And so you'll see where the money's coming from in grants, et cetera, and then you'll have a budget that takes a look to see what it is you're going to spend. So no, you don't just
Yeah.
go out and start drawing down that $4.7 million anytime real soon. But hopefully your project will commence quickly, and weather being equal, weather being good, we'll get some things going.
Okay. So, questions? Anybody? He answered all your questions. So is there,
We need council to approve the mayor to sign this
Move that we authorize,
Ordinance.
that we,
Ordinance.
well, I move that we approve ordinance 1572 and authorize the mayor to sign the limited tax general obligation bond.
Second.
moved and seconded to authorize the mayor to sign ordinance 1572. Questions on that motion? If not, all in favor with aye?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, ordinance number 1572 is passed. So now,
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for coming.
Yes, yes.
Good.
And to make it sit through this whole thing. So, ordinance 1573, and this is a budget amendment. Robin will walk us through this way.
Well, I think it, we can read it and kind of tell there's a lot of amendments. I'll just hit a few highlights of them. The police had a lot of extras this year, and I think Chief can explain some of those. We had some little projects like the Horse Park firewazing. Like Stephen said earlier, we had some equipment that we purchased. Some of it's just under budgeted that needs to be bumped up. Anytime a developer, we are billed from, like, for example, from our engineer. We pay the engineer, and then I turn around and bill the developer. So the money comes in and out. By law, because we're truly spending money, even though we're not spending money, we have to budget it. So we have obviously a large developer that's had a lot of money this year going in and out. And it's just a wild guess of what to put in there. I don't even know if that's going to make it through the end of the year. What else do we have? The energy grant, we think it'll be this year. We had the SR 903 Kittitas County Utility Extension, which was a huge project, but it's not a cost to the city, it's just in and out. And that's, for the most part, most of it. And you need to do these by law. I mean, you have to do your budget amendments.
Well, this keeps the books balanced.
Well, it keeps us out of hot water with the auditor.
Okay, all right, that's a better way.
Right, and all the expenses are backed up by revenues, which you can see through here.
Yeah, you have to, when you do the budget amendment, you have to balance, show where the expense is coming from. So that's why you'll see revenues and expenses. And if you don't have a revenue to back it up with, then you have to use a reserve balance to make the amended budget.
Questions? Any confusion over that, you guys?
I move that we approve ordinance 1573.
A second.
Okay, moved and seconded to approve ordinance 1573, amending the 2019 budget. Questions on the motion? All in favor with aye?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, ordinance 1573 is passed. So now we have to deal with garbage, and it looks like it's Rob again.
Robin,
He's the garbage man tonight.
Thank you, Council and Mayor. Basically, we've got notification that the county will be raising their tipping fees. Waste Management raises their fees, but this year we think that we can only need to do a 3% raise in garbage. This year actually starting in January 2020. Our proposal is to raise the city rates 3%, which will cover the costs of the fees that are being raised on the other end. So again, we're not, making money. It's just
not county, right?
well, county, the county waste management.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm told waste management. Period. But they're being charged more by the county to dump. So my recommendation is to pass this ordinance raising the garbage rates 3%.
Quick question. I know we made this change back, and this is just the adoption of this year's schedule. But in point F, it says, in addition to the charges set forth, the city may increase the charges for collection, removal, and disposal of garbage rates on December 35th, 2016, and every December 31st thereafter. There's no needing to update that date. That just reminds us when we started this process of going to a Because like when,
December, I mean, the 2016, is that you're talking about, right?
no, on the last
Yeah.
page, section F, because
Yeah.
like at the beginning, on the schedule of charges, we, I mean, it probably doesn't matter because obviously we can do it anytime following that date. But do we change it every year, or is that
Uh-huh.
just a
It must have
set in
been
stone?
just something that was left over.
What it says, every third
And then every I don't know if
So
it
there's
needs
no
to be.
need for.
I don't think it
verbiage
needs to
change?
be, because it
Okay.
says in every
Yeah.
December 31st thereafter,
No, it gives us that.
a rate of up to 3%.
Yeah. I'm comfortable, 3% is probably about the minimum that we can to keep
Yeah.
a balanced
I think
budget.
last year was 5%.
Yeah.
I think you do it because you have more than 3% usually. This year,
I see.
you don't.
So as much as I hate to vote on an increase in order to stay solvent, I would motion that we approve ordinance 1572. Oh, sorry, 1574. Yes, thank you.
Your left hand, ministry. Yeah.
I'll second that.
It moved and seconded to adopt ordinance 1574 that increases the garbage rates by 3%. I think that comes out to about $1 a month, isn't that, Rob, what you're saying?
Yeah, depending on the size, but typically
The average.
the average, was it $1?
Well, 35 is like $15.
Yeah, $1.50 maybe.
Okay.
Yeah, $1.50 a month.
Questions on the motion?
Yes. So I've already noticed a big increase at the dump. The transfer station's already increased. And now with the inability to recycle glass, all that weight, all that tonnage goes into trash cans now. And so I don't know what the increase is on businesses, but I know businesses now in town can no longer fill their trucks and take up to recycling. They now have to pay that already to waste management. And so now I go up on a Saturday with, let's just say the Sunset, and they drive their pickup truck, and it now costs them an extra $150 a month already to throw glass in the garbage before we had the ability to recycle it. So they've already, businesses that use a lot of glass, restaurants in particular, have already sort of taken a hit on this already. And I think small businesses in this town can't afford to continue to take small hits.
Yeah. So we can voice that to Rob, and that's definitely an appropriate voicing in this venue, but really where that input needs to go is at the SWAC committees where, where those type of things are heard, and likely they're gonna say, okay, do you wanna negotiate with some other place? And
Copy.
We've done that in the past and found that nobody else wants to haul our trash to Seattle cheaper than processing it in, somewhat within a more local ability.
But recycling is a county, it is countywide, and it needs to be dealt with at some point. The SWAC, really, I know there was a member on it here.
Actually, the seat you took was the person who would go to the solid waste advisory, that's what they call SWAC. And that's where, when these increases and this changes in the garbage stuff, it's an advisory committee to the county commissioners, and that's where the debate can take place. And we really have not had much participation. It used to be the SWAC was very active, but it's kind of, and we did have a presentation here by SACA, and they would really welcome additional participation.
Actually, the SWAC is, busy doing stuff. It's just that our participation hasn't been real great. So we could use a member on the council. If anybody wants to volunteer.
Well, there's no one on the council that really is concerned about it right now, it looks like. But it takes time. The meetings, you have to see when they are and stuff.
And they only indirectly influence it, because again, we're dealing with a private company that collects our trash, and then, eventually the county.
Well, this is
Well, they
for the
recommend
county,
to the county
right,
commissioners.
to the county commissioners, that the SWAC handles the county side of it. Yeah,
Yes,
of
yeah.
the tipping fees that were increased, like Mr. Weaver said there.
So we can follow up on this sort of thing for sure.
I'm absolutely not opposed to keeping up with garbage, but I do
No,
think
no,
that there
No,
are.
yeah, we
That's
definitely need
real
to,
important
we need to
point
hold
that
the
you brought
county's
up,
feet
though.
to the fire
Yes.
on this.
Yeah, so. Okay, with that, are there any other questions on the motion? If not, all in favor with aye?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, the motion passes. So, committee reports, is there anything of interest in the committee reports?
We're
At this
making
time?
progress on our negotiations with the county concerning their, what has traditionally been a yearly contract.
Yes, okay.
And we feel like we're gonna get several value adds, and we don't anticipate any increase in the amount of, in the dollar amount of the contract, but we feel like we're gonna have some very extreme leverage.
You said county, but it's the chamber.
Sorry, the county chamber.
County chamber.
Sorry, the county chamber provides tourism services and visitor center services, and our anticipation is that we will sign a contract that gives us more service for the exact same amount of money and more potency of that service. So,
Okay, good.
and we hope to have a recommendation at the next council meeting, or possibly the one following it, but before the last one of the year.
Okay, so we're at number 12, I don't know, what you guys feel like?
No, we want to stay here for a long day.
Okay, meeting's adjourned.
The first and second, are you guys ready? On adjourning.